Dream as if you'll live forever, live as if you'll die today. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nina, and together with Emil and Apelele, we will be presenting the opportunity for knowledge exchange in Melusi.
As mentioned, Melusi is located in Pretoria, to the west of Pretoria CPD. Through conversations with the residents of Melusi, they've indicated their places of work, education centres, including schools and creches, medical facilities, points of recreational and shopping centres. This highlights the importance of this project and similar projects, as Melusi is well established with resources and the closer proximity.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. After one of our first introductions to the students from Chalmers University, we had a needs-finding workshop with Larry Toops, where we discussed the theory of design. We realized that for any sustainable design opportunity, you need to start by asking guiding questions, which then lead to needs identification. This is a circular process. But what is a guiding question? Guiding questions ask a direct question, whereas leading questions is a loaded question, which expects more knowledge from the answer. We also have two types of needs, expressed and latent needs. Expressed needs comes directly from the interviewee, whereas latent needs can be needs that the interviewee themselves may not be aware of.
What is knowledge? Knowledge is defined as learning and gaining understanding and awareness through life experiences, conversations, skills, and education. And what does knowledge look like within the South African context? In a post-apartheid, post-colonial context where marginalization and power imbalances exist, knowledge is one of the tools to correct the unequal spread, management, and access to resources and information that previous systems restricted within South Africa. Knowledge exchange can be understood through the concept symbiosis, which is defined as a term that describes and categorizes any relationship or interaction between two dissimilar things. These categories include commensalism, where one thing benefits and the other is unaffected; mutualism, where both species benefit; parasitism, where one species benefits and the other is harmed. From the three types, mutualism and commensalism appropriately describe and categorize the different outcomes of knowledge spread. Between the two, we are advocating for mutualism over commensalism because it promotes mutually beneficial outcomes through knowledge spread.
There are two methods of knowledge spread: knowledge transfer and knowledge exchange. Knowledge transfer is defined as one-way exchange between knowledge base or a teacher and a student, whereby ideas, evidence, experiences, and skills are spread. This one-way exchange commonly has the following outcomes: non-participatory knowledge spread, power inequality. It is the sharing of knowledge in an academic environment, and only one party benefits. This one-way transfer of knowledge is from a teacher to a student, where only the student benefits, thus defined as commensalism. Volunteer work is an example of this, but might be problematic because only one party benefits. Only after compensation is introduced, usually financially, does knowledge transfer become mutually beneficial. Mido is a perfect example of this, where knowledge transfer takes place. Because this is a mutual exchange, where money is involved, it is financially dependent. We question whether this is a self-sustainable and a long-term solution in Melusi.
After understanding that knowledge transfer is a one-way concept, we investigated the possibility of a two-way transfer concept. Knowledge exchange is defined as a two-way exchange between a researcher and a research user to share ideas, evidence, experiences, and skills. Knowledge exchange invites mutual participation and contribution in knowledge, meaning that no compensation is required. It intends for equal power distribution and equal spread of knowledge. The benefits of knowledge exchange includes an appropriate approach to respond to the knowledge equality in Melusi. It maximizes the chance of making a difference to the world outside of academia, and it contributes to the growth of Melusi's economy. Therefore, we ask, how can the mutual participation in knowledge exchange impact the visibility and accessibility of knowledge to positively contribute to Melusi? The purpose of our research is to stimulate the relationships between residents, the broader community, and the surrounding environment through mutual participation in knowledge spread.
Our project strategy. After following an academic strategy based on qualitative study and quantitative study, we gathered initial observations from when we were introduced to site, as well as conversations and data, and from there we identified the following lenses which we used to inform the themes. Number one, we identified that the residents of Melusi practice knowledge in a way that meets the needs of the present and tomorrow, this being sustainability. Number two, the residents used creative and new problem-solving methods, being innovation. Number three, we identified that they practically apply the existing knowledge, this being existing skills.
Focusing on our research topic, we identified three observation themes where knowledge exchange is either already evident or where there is an unequal spread of knowledge. They were also based on the data we gathered and the observations we made. These themes were studied through three different lenses as Lele mentioned: sustainability, existing skills, and innovation. Our first observation theme focused on agriculture in Melusi. This included small-scale food production and poultry farming. The second focused on existing building technology, more specifically, waterproofing, shading, and the materials and methods associated with them. Lastly, we looked at existing business skills in Melusi to further explore the opportunities for knowledge exchange.
After we determined our framework and response strategies, we went back to site in Melusi to identify needs in line with knowledge exchange. The needs we identified through observation included the lack of gardens, the need for gardens as food sources, and the lack of effective construction methods. After interpreting the statistical data from the Co-Creating Wellness Survey, we identified there was a lack of preparation for extreme weather, unemployment, and the lack of financial stability. Agriculture as observational theme. The existing agricultural practices and lack thereof highlight an opportunity for knowledge exchange in small-scale food production and farming. Small-scale agriculture interventions in Melusi are currently seen in resident gardens. We asked how many people have gardens and what they use them for. We saw innovative layering in some gardens, such as this one, where the first layer consists of tall standing maize, a second layer of low-growing beans, as well as a third layer that we will elaborate on. Informed by an existing sense of informal sustainability, small-scale food production could be analyzed through all three of our lenses, as many families depend on their gardens for food. Existing knowledge about how you use the food that you produce is also evident in Melusi. For example, the leaves of the pumpkin also gets eaten in a stew. Residents also showed inventive reuse of tires for spinach and other vegetables. As 24.4% of the interviewees expressed that they depend on their existing gardens for food, we identified a gap for knowledge exchange to happen around existing small-scale poultry farming and the sustainability thereof. Our team observed the clever use of building materials to construct chicken coops and saw this as an opportunity to encourage residents to spread the word around the benefits that this can bring. We identified gaps that could benefit from agricultural knowledge exchange, such as the lack of gardens and the lack of visible aspects of food production and farming. 28% of the interviewed community members expressed that they do not actively use their gardens as an additional means to support themselves. Here you can see two opposing sketches with the same site measurements, but only one produces food.
As mentioned before, the residents of Melusi are extremely innovative and making good use of what they have. This includes upcycled furniture, mattress springs as gates, and many more. This was also seen in the survey questions. They try and succeed in many ways to fix the roads in the settlement in innovative ways, such as making channels to improve water drainage. 230 people out of the 337 said they have experienced heavy rain in the last 12 months. 132 said they experienced very hot conditions in this period. When asked what plans they have made to prepare for these events, a large amount of the people reply that they do indeed prepare the dwellings, and it is clearly evident. From innovatively using air cartridges for thermal insulation, building dwellings with roof overhangs, using waterproofing membranes, to installing actual draining systems. Yet when asked the same question, Slightly more people replied that they have done nothing so far to prepare for these events. There is a big gap in knowledge on how to prepare dwellings for extreme weather conditions, with little to none extra expenses. In our observations, we looked at how the dwelling's typical footings look, with a concrete footing that both keeps the sheeting in place and prevents groundwater from entering the internal space. Yet the waterproofing problem is not fully overcome, as water enters between the sheeting and the footing. The observations and the data point to a lack of knowledge distribution. When asked what the residents have done when these events occurred, we identified a large amount of people either helped themselves or replied that there is nothing they can do about it. What is extremely exciting to see in the data, although very low, is that knowledge is already shared where residents help their neighbors. Some examples of the lack of knowledge distribution includes roof waterproofing, where some dwellings are open and exposed with no waterproofing, some tried to close opening with plastic bags, and others used gutters. When looking at the foundings of the structures in the ground, on the one hand, some are in direct contact, some started blocking water with a timber barrier, and on the other side, others have sloped the concrete footings for the water to run off. For us, it was very interesting looking at different methods and materials used to provide shading, from corrugated sheeting and more cost-effective shade netting to the use of vegetation for shading. 132 people out of the 373 asked replied that it is very hot indoors and that there is nothing they can do about it. When asked what they use their garden for, a small amount replied that they actually use it to cool down their dwelling. Although not a lot, there is a more sustainable method, and this knowledge could possibly benefit others once shared. Not all construction solutions are effective in fixing the problems at hand. A small amount of people refer to the dumping sites for material collection, which they then use innovatively to build and fix dwellings. The majority buy materials which can be argued as a less sustainable method. The data clearly shows that corrugated sheeting, wattle poles, and timber planks are the materials used most oftenly. The residents, especially someone that is new to Melusi, that doesn't know why they use such a big variety of materials, and how to use the materials when building, could benefit from knowledge exchange. We observed different fixing details of cladding, loose wires, bent nails, and screws, where most of the residents replied that nails is what they use most often. Seeing that timber and wattle poles are the materials used most often for column and beam connections, different methods are evident. Some are structurally sound than the others, and some not as cost effective. With these contrasting materials and methods used, knowledge exchange regarding building technology is already evident throughout Melusi, but at a small scale. Residents could benefit financially and live in more sustainable dwellings that will last longer with no need to constantly fix problems.
Financial stability is a common worry expressed by the residents of Melusi, whereby 181 out of 200 interviewed Melusi residents expressed extreme worry about having a job, and 116 out of 120 of the interviewed residents expressed that they are looking for a job. On the contrary, 51 out of 120 of residents sustain themselves with their own businesses. Therefore, it is evident that there is a need and opportunity for business-related skills and knowledge spread amongst the community members of Melusi. The maps shown only illustrate the taverns in Melusi, which are 15. This was mapped from data. According to the data, 207 out of 250 of the interviewed residents expressed a desire to run their own businesses, and 116 out of 150 of the interviewed Melusi residents would like to run a business in a group. 30% of the residents rent from a private landlord. And so why is this significant? These statistics highlight that number one, there is existing businesses within Melusi. Number two, the residents of Melusi have a desire to start a business, and this shows an opportunity for those who have skills in running a business to exchange knowledge with those who can benefit from it. The dot on the screen shows that there are a variety of skills in business and recreational activities expressed by interviewed residents of Melusi. For example, 196 out of 250 residents expressed that they were able to keep record of money, and 164 out of 200 residents stated music as their recreational activity. This highlights that there are a variety of interesting existing interests within Melusi, which is again an opportunity for knowledge exchange to spread through these skills and interests. So where can knowledge exchange potentially happen? Through conversations, a lot of the residents pointed out that they would like if the nursery could be reused for other purposes. And based on site observations, conversations, and data outcomes, we noted that public or open space within Melusi may look like a courtyard within a resident's home, as shown in the drawing on the slides, or spaces of community gatherings for meetings, which in this case is mostly the street corner and open space in Melusi, as shown on the data on the slide. These highlight potential knowledge exchange spaces.
The students from Chalmers University hosted a Melusi Hill workshop, which we used as a practical test run for our intention of knowledge exchange. We used Mido for advertising, and here you can see the pamphlets we handed out to the community. Within this workshop, they introduced Melusi residents to the hill and encouraged discussions about the nature, their backyard. Their schedule for the morning consisted of meeting at Mido, and after a short walk past Melusi 2, they reached the top where they discovered the beautiful view of Melusi. On their walk back through the nursery, they gathered back at Mido and reflected on the expressions and opinions of the hill. The Chalmers students explained to us that the natural intuition of knowledge exchange happened after just 15 minutes of their journey. They discussed their fears, but also their enjoyments about the hill, surrounding nature, fruits, and small animals. In reference to the needs we presented, we identified opportunities to help improve the needs. In terms of agriculture, we identified opportunities for existing knowledge about small-scale food production and small-scale poultry farming. In terms of building technology, we identified opportunities for existing knowledge about waterproofing techniques, sustainable construction techniques, and the innovative use of construction material. In terms of business, we identified opportunities for existing small business skills, the willingness to teach and learn business-oriented skills.
We conclude by saying that knowledge exchange is a more appropriate, sustainable, and mutually beneficial tool because it responds to the context of Melusi, as it promotes the equal distribution of power, access, and knowledge spread. The data and observations conclude that there is existing knowledge in Melusi which demonstrates innovation, sustainability, and existing skills that are an opportunity for a sustainable and mutually beneficial system. On the contrary, the data also highlights unequal spread of knowledge within each theme identified. And so the relationships between existing knowledge and the desire to learn provide opportunities for a knowledge exchange system. Lastly, we as the University of Pretoria Urban Citizen students and the Chalmers University Reality Studio students would like to express our deepest gratitude to the field workers of Melusi, the NRF, SASTA, the University of Pretoria Urban Citizen Studio coordinators, the University of Pretoria research contributors and staff, the Chalmers University Reality Studio coordinators, and the residents of Melusi for their time, dedication, willingness, assistance, and participation in the Co-Creating Wellness Research Project. This research project endeavor would have never been possible without your meaningful contribution. Thank you.